folks. Welcome back to the NBC Network, the Sales World channel, and myself, Hurricane H. Another day, new show, new topic, an awesome topic. Actually, something we need to be aware of. We need to put to practice. I would say, in real life and specifically in business. And my guest today, first of all, she's a podcaster. She is a business coach. She helps people vision and declare their visions and manifest their visions and make things happen through vision boards. And it's something that sometimes it eludes us a lot in the business world, in the corporate world, and sometimes even in life, we can do some of that stuff as well. Now, she provides a lot of work and assistance to guide people in the world to actually be able to achieve, their targets and their goals and so on and so forth. So, without any further ado, I have with me Debbi Sluys. Debbi, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
Well, listen, yeah, I'm just as excited. It is a fun topic. I mean, I do have a background in obviously the corporate world, and as a person, I've always had goals, and also like in my business, I have my vision, I have things, but really, a lot of people sometimes have issues or they don't get to what they want because they don't have a guide, I would say. So there's a lot of stuff that happens to us, and sometimes we get caught up and maybe we work with just spin wheels, but nothing gets done because we don't have a plan, like a master plan. And your work can assist people. You are helping people get in aligned and making sure that they have that vision, drawn basically, so they have a roadmap. But before we go there, Debbi, tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into this particular space, and then we'll take it from there.
Sure. Well, you've brought up a couple of times, and so I just want to include this as part of my introduction, even. So, my background is in early years, which means I was a childcare director of a multi site, not for profit organization. So, I answered to a board of directors. I did that for 30 years. But what was really interesting when I first started to explore this idea of vision boarding, and I would talk about it in our friends circle, I noticed that the husbands of my girlfriends understood what I was talking about more quickly than it seemed like my female friends. And I found that interesting but then I realized that's because if you're in a corporate setting, almost every corporation, every business has a company vision. And so they have it written on the wall, the mission statement, the vision, and then they'll break it down into either annual goals or quarterly goals. So the whole idea of having a vision just made sense. And so, I mean, I'm generalizing here, but yeah, that idea, that corporate idea of vision, I was surprised to find that my masculine male friends understood it more quickly. So, but really it wasn't about that piece, even though I had done that for my board of directors, where I had supported them to create a set of core values to help them set goals. I was running like a multi-million-dollar not-for-profit organization business, but really it was about the educator herself. And what I noticed was, one of the most important jobs in the world, we were talking off before we even got started here about parenting and how chaotic and crazy it can be with kids. One of the most important jobs is an early child educator or teacher. But what I noticed was many of my educators didn't have a vision, hadn't really even thought about that before in their lives, and certainly didn't have goals. They were really just showing up for work every day, picking up that paycheck, like so many people in other occupations as well. And then they were burning out. And that was a problem for me as a director because it's costly to, just from a business perspective, to continue to attract the best, retain the best employees. So I really thought I need to focus in on the educator herself. And even though my role was to provide professional development, I realized that the more coaching I was able to do within my job and support her and empower her, inspire her on a personal level, that's where I was seeing this culture, this beautiful culture grow within our organization.
Well, that's interesting because I mean, I didn't put one of I didn't realize that that's where you started. It's amazing because you're touching on something that I think everyone watching us doesn't matter what part of the world you are, male or female in this case, it's irrelevant. The idea is that we all, as kids, we start with having our own vision of who we were. We want to be in the world, and we always see that question like, what would you like to be when you're old, right? Like when you get older, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this stuff. But how many of us literally from that age really manifest what we actually wanted at that age? Now, most of us probably don't and haven't. We want to say stuff because I think the standard were the doctor, the lawyer, engineer, architect, maybe fire, policeman, so we had those kind of, stuff. But there's so many other things in life. And, no one is like, I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be like, a billionaire. I haven't heard that one from kids yet. Maybe in the new generation, I think that now that it's becoming more relevant, in the world, right? And through social media and stuff. But really, that's one first thing. But that's basically almost like just stating your dream, what you want, right, in life. Now, a lot of things happen from that point on. I mean, there's also a lot of influence that we have through parents, through society, and so on and so forth. So that usually kind of deviates a little bit those thoughts, and then they're road thoughts. They're not really stuff, but the difference is that you talked about in the corporate world where you're right. Everybody that has been in the corporate space, there's a vision. You get training. Sometimes I had actually a CEO who used to actually make us literally state the mission ad hoc. He will walk. He's like, "What's our mission?" And you have to actually literally like state it, like just claim it and declare it. So that's funny, like but it's so it keeps you like on the same target, on the same mission as everybody in the company, so you believe in that. But you're right, a lot of people, they get into these roles but they're not really buying into the concept. So let's talk about these two components. One is the personal piece of it, like how we are as humans in general, not adopting this idea in life. And it's something that we sometimes learn if we get into the corporate world and like structured companies. And even with that, some companies may still fail that, and some employees may fail that. And then, of course, we want to also guide it and take this discussion into the world of entrepreneurship. When you want to have your own business, and you have these aspirations of grandeur and success, but how do you go there? So let's break it down.
For sure. And, something that you said made me think. I hadn't thought about this in a long time, but in high school, you know how when you graduate grade 12, they ask you to write down a little funny quote or something, next to your high school graduation picture. I had written something down about Young and the Restless. That soap opera. I was like, I would watch it sometimes, not so much because I would like the drama and everything, but more like the way the women were on the show, like the lifestyle. And I was like 17, and I actually came from very conservative Christian upbringing. So like that lifestyle was like beyond where I was at. But I remember something in my quote was about, being an executive like that. And it's about planting those seeds. So, and it's not so much did I want to be like that and be in a corporate setting, but no, but I wanted that lifestyle. And you also said something about, parents. And one of the things you talked about earlier about me being a podcaster, what I'm noticing in my podcast is that those that are giant manifestors, and I'd be curious to actually turn the question back to you,
Oh,
is that those that are giant manifestors, they all seem to have a common thread in that they had an adult who was visionary. And I've just discovered this recently, and I've only started my podcast recently, but like my very first guest was Brian Proctor. His dad was Bob Proctor. And, he's like the guru of law of attraction, universal laws. He's a Canadian. He was in the movie The Secret. And I mean, he just spoke into Brian's life, but I'm noticing that with every person. And I'm not asking that question specifically, but I'm going to now. And so I'm just curious. I want to ask you, like, did you have someone that spoke into your life as an adult who was a visionary who allowed you to see what was possible?
yes and no. So not in the exact format as you described it. So I mean, I'm an only child, by just by design. So there is not a lot of folks in my life, at least in the immediate family. So it's my parents. My parents were not very super educated and things like that. My father had a job. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. But my mom specifically, I would say I would give her the credit because ever since I was a kid. She was directing me into like becoming who I am today, or who I have been literally. And she would throw in things at me like, you need to finish your school, you want to go to college, you want to do the stuff. I want you to be a director, I want you to be an executive. So she was telling me this without, because that's something that she lacked, I guess, in her own life, right? She was not able to achieve those things. So she was constantly pushing for me to be that way. And literally, it was like almost my first goal is to make her dream come true, as
Right.
opposed to my. And literally, I worked towards that as soon as I was able to, finish college, got a first job, and then I was into a corporate space. I was working towards that ladder, and I made it in less than 3 years. And then you got to see the face that she made, like when I made it to that. Now, of course, we're talking just a regular business, corporate ladder, things like that. But there's more to this story. When you actually have that drive, it takes you beyond. I mean, I've always wanted to have a business. I've always had a business on the side, and now I'm just aspiring to more and more. And but that's really what it is. But so in my case, that would be the person that I would say, really I admired, and I still admire her. She lives with me, and she still backs me up every corner. Of course, my wife is on my corner as well. But really, that was kind of my driver. And Frank, I mean, yeah, she's not a superstar or anything, but to me, she was the star that actually gave me that nice little plug. I mean, sometimes people don't even parents may not even introduce that idea to the kid. Oh, do whatever you want, whatever. They don't even
Right.
care. So I had that, and really I had always that push. Like,
Right.
I can't give up on my mom's dream. I want to make sure that she's happy with that performance and stuff. So it was for me and her, and of course my dad was happy about it, this whole thing, because he was a very supportive dad, and that was it. So that's my answer as far as
I
you
love that. And there's so much in there. Like, I think what your mom did was she edified you. So, it's truly about believing. And so you got to step into her belief. So, as a little guy, like you said, anything's possible to little ones. Oh, I want to fly to the moon. I want to be king. I want to be right. But your mom's like, you are an executive, even though your reality around you, she's a homemaker, dad's at a 9 to 5, but she's like, you believed it because she did. And so she edified you with her belief, which is so incredibly powerful. So anyone that's parents, just realize like the influence that you can have. But then the other thing that she did for you was she supported you to have this amazing self-image. And if anyone wants to manifest in your life, you truly are manifesting your self-image. Everything else on your board is materialistic, which connects to your self-image, but it's who's the man that drives that car? Who's the woman that lives in that home on the lake? Who's the like you need to put yourself into those material things, but it's that like I did with that Young and the Restless. I saw it was like my self-image. I was that woman walking around in pencil skirts, high heels, traveling first class, and that's my life now. Like I get to do that, which is extraordinary. But I already saw her in my mind's eye at age 17. You already saw the executive through your mom's eyes and in that belief and in that beautiful energy that she transferred to you at age 7, 8, whatever. Like this is the magic. I'm so excited that I've never been able to come at it from this way. So thank you so much for
no
this
my
conversation.
no
It's exciting.
It's actually, thank you for asking, because like you don't think about it that way, but since you asked, I mean, that's really what it was. And I can tell you, uh, early on, it gave me the drive of being more independent, more executive in my decision, even as a younger age. I mean, she also, her and dad, they gave me a lot of autonomy to make decisions and do stuff. They never overwhelmed me in terms of, like, although they gave me that push in that direction and that directive or that dream goal, but also at the same time, they give me the reason behind it, the motivation and the support to do it, which is important because, a lot of parents, I mean, listen, I'm a parent and we want our kids to do better than we do all the time. And we want them to not to suffer, not to go through things. Maybe if we can cut them a couple of steps in life, why not? But not all the kids, sometimes follow through that. Sometimes they challenge that status, like, oh, I don't want your ideology, I want my own, which is fine. And they do, and that's fine. But in my case, I believe that the empowerment that they give me and that whole trust factor that they give me that you are going to do this allowed me to actually evolve into that particular role slowly. So even as a child or like, a teenager, and through college, I was independent. I was living by myself. I was doing, before even college, I was doing vacations, with my, cousins. And we were kind of making things. Even in college, we had a program where we had to have a company created within the college. So it was part of our curriculum, and basically you assign director, you assign different functions to this particular business. And believe it or not, I was elected to be the director for this business. I didn't plan for it, but somehow my energy and stuff, manifested in exactly that. And so that was my first director job, if you want to call it that way. But it was really just and that goes for anyone that is in college. You get projects, so you're a project lead, or sometimes in our case it was a project, but it was really you create a business, you give it a name. There's marketing, there is public relations, there is finance, and everybody has a task, and you have to direct all this, and then you have to execute on the business drive. So it was my first experience, and then of course. For example, I wanted to work at Disney, and that was where my first role, like a first real job, and I wanted to manifest that. I wanted to happen, and it happened. And I worked towards it. I did all the steps that are necessary to get there, and I did. And I was able to actually get my first job in the company that I dreamt to work with. And I did that. And then finally, I got into the corporate world, and I stumbled into the health insurance space, and it's weird the events, how things are all kind of connected somehow, and you never know what's the next thing that's going to make the next thing happen until you get to where you're supposed to be, and then that's all it is. And then you have the other thing is that in this life, there's also people that come your way, and those are the people sometimes that give you the opportunity. They're designed to actually assist you somehow, and they do. I mean, your role, my role, sometimes is designed right now to help somebody else's life somehow through this talk or through the work you do. And it's important that we don't have to discount these people. The same way as my mom was one of our, my main motivator and driver behind this. I think there are people also that in our life that do this, and they see that early on, even before you see yourself, they see that potential, that energy, that the dynamic, that the possibilities are there. They give you the opening, and I've done the same thing, and that turned me into another level of leadership, because as a true leader, you see that you start seeing talent, and you want like really mold them into the next leadership. Your replacement, in essence, or even someone that can be your successors, or they can be even your leader. And I've had that opportunity where actually someone I trained became my boss, eventually. So you never know. But these are all things that happen to me, but I know that they can, be for anybody else. But it started with that small vision of like, you're gonna go to this place and stuff. And I've had this actually happening again. I did tell this story once. Um, I met this great retired pianist at a hotel because I was doing an internship there, and this guy was a wise dude. I mean, he had lived his life. He was retired. That's all he did. He played the piano, but he had quite a bit of expertise and experience in business world and stuff. And he actually also stated the same thing. You're going places. You're going to do stuff. Now I say it. Someone said like you're full of yourself. This is the true story. And believe it or not, these little words that you hear. And so if you have a chance to tell someone that, if you see that value, give it to them. I give that. If someone I see, I know you have what it takes to get there, and you give them that pump. You don't know what that little pump is going to do in their life and how it's going to motivate them to make more. And it's amazing that these things really happen, and the impact on them, they stay with you. So I'm giving you stories now. I wasn't expecting you to ask me, but you did what a podcaster would do, so that's good. But it's good because I think it's an exchange of ideology and drivers, and really those visions to me, those dreams became visions, became actually real planned, and from that point on, it was just like, what's the next move? What's the next move? And you're right. You want to live a certain lifestyle. Now that doesn't mean you're materialistic, but these are like I think I was watching show the other day. I've forgotten the name now. But the idea of the show is like, travel, first class, as you said, at least once, so you see what it feels like, and then you can work towards it. If you want to, like, I have a picture of my car and my house and on my phone, just so I can always keep relating to my prize. This is exactly what I'm working for. This is what I want. I want to do more of this, right? And so eyes on the prize, as they say. I want to make sure that I have that. So that's the story.
It's so amazing. I can't wait for my son to listen to this because again, I can't make this stuff up. Okay, so he's 20. He's into 3D animation. And I was just talking to him this weekend about what's your vision, bud? Like he's in his third year. Like, his parents were like, okay, buddy, you're done with schooling. Like, let's get a job here, right? But like, what's the big vision? And so when I started to to work with him like I do with my clients, which I don't normally do with my family members, right? We got bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's like, he wants eventually to do his own movie. But he also, his dream is to work with Disney. And the fact that you just said that, like, I'm like, what? That's incredible. I can't wait to share this with him. But I said, hold the vision. Because he said, but mom, that's not realistic. And that's exactly right. Because a vision isn't realistic. Because if you know the how, it's actually a goal. A vision is something that's an act of God. It's something that's bigger than you can just accomplish. Like when you started out too, you're like, I want to work for Disney. You probably had no idea how that was going to happen, but it was like,
Oh, well, Debbie, just to give you, I mean, I was in Morocco. So this was like even much harder than people would imagine. I mean, there was only, at the time, there was only one that was hired for that role. That was me for that year. So just to give you how it was difficult, but and I was declined an opportunity to actually get that job the first time, and I found a way around it, and I was able still to get it eventually through a different channel, not from my university but through the American Center. So there's a will, there's a way. You have to
yeah,
find a way for your stuff. But you're right, it was a vision. It was like you see yourself. I mean, I really, and I say this today even through my media, is that one of the things, like some I had an interview one time, and I was like, what do you see yourself? I see myself in the 5-year mark, the 10-year mark, and how big that would look like. And I can see us, with awards. I can see us, having one of those great galas and red carpets and the movies. And, I mean, it's still within, this is not going to be entertainment. This is educational, resourceful stuff, but there's a way to convert that into film and things. And actually I'm working towards those things right now. And you know what? Some people say like, you're a crazy dude. You dream too much, or like you have great dreams. Well, you know what? I always say this: dream as big as you can, scare yourself dreaming. It doesn't hurt. It's free, right? I mean, what's the worst that can happen? It doesn't happen. Well, you're going to work towards it regardless. You're going to
yeah.
achieve as much of it as you can. That's still an achievement versus if you have none. So that's just how I go.
I love it. And I would switch that to say, what's the best thing that can happen?
That's
And
right.
so, when you put it out there too, you said something earlier about people just showed up. Well, the other part of the law of attraction, people often think of law of attraction like attracting stuff, but you also attract opportunities, you attract people, because when you have that vision, there's something that's lit inside of you. Like, when you just say, "Oh, that guy's got good energy," like you just, or bad energy, like, "Ugh, I don't want to be around that guy." Like
That's true.
you just feel it. And so when you've got a vision, and then you've got clear motivation because of goals, people are attracted to you because you know people want to help. It feels good to help someone else. Like, have you ever had that where somebody says, "Oh, I need this," and you're like, "Hey, I got that. I've got one of those. Or I got two of those. I can give you one." Whatever it is. So that's the same thing as, this is why my company's name is called Declare, is that it's not just to declare it to the universe, but to declare it so that people, you're going to rally your supporters, your neighbors, your neighborhood around this idea, because singly, you won't be able to accomplish it. But when you attract all the resources and everything that you desire, yeah, that's when it manifests. And I have one more story I just want to share with you about a little guy. We were talking about kids earlier, and I've done a little mini vision board, which is based on a word for the year. So, and for your listeners, if they're like, I don't know how to start creating a vision board, start with a single word, a power word, I call it. And so I led the kids. It was a grade 6 class. So this little guy would have been maybe 10, 11, maybe 11, 12 years old, here in Canada. And instead of the normal provocation that I give to the adults, so again, anybody that's following along, if you want to do this exercise, the exercise is, if time and money were no object, those are the biggest objections to dreaming big. Like you said, what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the best thing that can happen? If you had all the time, all the money, what would you do? So that's my adult provocation. But for the kids, because I don't know about your kids, but my kids don't care about time. My adult kids are starting to, but and some of them really don't, they don't value money or currency. So what I said to the kids was, if you had all the help in the world that you needed, like all the resources, all the help you needed, what would you do to make the world a better place? Wow, these kids blew me away. But I had it about half an hour into the workshop. The little guy came up to me and he's like, Mrs. Sluice, he said, I don't know my word. I can't figure out my word. And I said, okay, let's go back to the exercise. What did you decide? What did you say? He said, well, you know how there's diseases that don't have cures? And I said, yes. He said, I think those cures are in the ocean. I couldn't, like, I was like, whoa. I mean, 11, 12 years old? Like, kid, you are going places. And as you said, your mom spoke into you. Like, I got to speak into this little guy. And I said, I said, it sounds like you're an explorer or an adventurer. Because I am an explorer. So imagine having that kind of self image, that kind of belief at 11 and 12 years old. Because in order to manifest your best life, you need three things. You need to ask for what you want, get really clear on what it is that you want. Most people, you ask them what do they want, they have no idea. They haven't even given 5 minutes in a day to think about what they want. I don't know. We just got through the holiday season. Did somebody ask you what you want for Christmas? You're probably like, I got everything. I don't know, you know? And second is belief. And I think there's a misnomer, like I got to believe in myself. We let ourselves down all the time. We're supposed to eat better, we're supposed to exercise more, we're supposed to, take better care of our skin, whatever it is. So believing, and as you said, someone else, if they give that to you, like you're going places, young man, or I can see it in you to take that belief. And the last is being open to receive. And so this is the other kind of bookend to the asking, where many of us are not good at receiving compliments, good at receiving, offers of help. We just shut it down. And so think about that in your own life. Like, have you exercised this muscle of receiving? Because if you can't receive little things, then goodness knows you're not going to be able to receive the big things that the universe has got in store for you. So ask, believe, and receive. So anyways, this little guy taught me a really big lesson that day around just the power of dreaming big. I mean, he's going to discover cures in the ocean. So cool.
Well, Debbie, it's what you're saying is true, and we have documentation of this in the history. Every single achievement we have today has been somebody's, you know, stupid idea for many, but it was the idea that changed the world, because that's a lot of people that says, oh, we want to fly. Okay. Humans can't fly. Well, guess what? We fly now, right? We go over, all over the planet, right? People, there's so many, like, we're talking across, a couple hours of I guess distance, in terms of space and time here, and you're right here with me, and people are watching us live. We're watching news all over the world. I mean, who thought these things? I mean, the phone. We got to be able to talk to people from a distance, and that was like, wow. I mean, we're getting now into holograms. We get into the meta worlds, and so on and so forth. Those were like ideas, and people like they frown because they just don't understand it. They just frown about it. Like, yeah, well, that's never gonna work. They shut it down before they see the merits of it. But the visionaries, they see that. They see it. And I'll give you a good example. This is just for me. You know, when this whole thing with my media started, was the idea. It started with almost a challenge, but an idea that I had that kind of all combined. Eventually, my kids kind of tuned me into YouTube. And it was like, well, you should. And I think a friend of mine even said you should have a YouTube channel. So, like, well, I could have a YouTube channel. I could have a media company that is bigger than just having YouTube. I have a YouTube channel. It's just one feed for the world for me. But really, so I took it to the next level. So again, it's that bigger vision. I mean, people do podcasts. I create a radio with podcasts, and podcasters and stuff like. So it's just like, how can I make it bigger? There's nothing that can say. I mean, I cruise a lot, and if you look at cruises, right? They used to be small when they first started. Now they're like cities at sea. I mean, these things have everything. Like, who would have thought that that's how the ships will look like, at a point where you could actually have a whole life there. You don't even have to move out of the ship. You can live there for the whole year with everything, all the amenities. I mean, and we can go. I mean, we have, in the planes now, you have showers and full suites, like in the case of Emirates and Etihad and all these expensive airlines. But the fact is, you have these things. People like, I can have that in the air. Yeah, you can. I mean, of course, you need money, but then how do I make the money to do that, right? And it's you keep vision like you want something. How do I go there? How do I make it? And you're right. I love what you said about first you have to be able to give. That's an important piece, and be able to receive as well. And that's the other thing. No one gets it done without by themselves. Where I am today didn't happen because of me. Happened because of a lot of people around me, a lot of folks that contribute to stuff. Like for example, nothing can happen in this particular media company without the guests, without the shows, without the podcasters, and the work and the content and the ideologies and the visions and their missions in life, because it aligns to our mission here. And then that's what it is. So it's not my work. I create a platform for people to have a voice and share their expertise to help others. So it's a win-win for all. I mean, everybody's winning. And that's the other thing. When you do it, it has to have value for everyone. And no matter what, as long as you have that and you believe in it, you're gonna make it work. At least that's my kind of rule of world here. And it works. And you're right. You need help. Um, Same concept at work. If no one succeeds without a team. There's no I in team, as we say, right? It's a whole team. Everybody does a piece. Otherwise, it doesn't work. In the family, same thing. Even families, you know, that don't have a vision together, they don't stay together. I mean, think about it, right? If we don't see ourselves like aging and stuff, and being, that old couple that is still happening and having a good time. And believe it or not, I see quite a few of those couples all over the world as I travel. And I enjoy just seeing them like, wow, God bless. I mean, you know, and I've seen people married 60 plus years. Now, of course, we're talking business here, but life is a business on its own. We tend to look at life, outside of a corporate world as different. Life is a business of living, and there's a lot more to do it. Corporate is actually part of that business. Entrepreneurship is part of that. So again, that's it. So thank you for like sharing that whole thing. And I love what you said. That kid, that had that vision. You're right. That's a visionary. And by the way, it is true. We have not we've tried to explore Mars, but we haven't explored the seas yet. There's plenty to explore there. There's things that are out there, that plants and things like that we cannot even perceive right now and comprehend, because we don't even have the technology to go all that deep dive, right? So there's so much stuff. And that kid, I mean, again, we talk about Elon Musk, for example. I mentioned Mars. It's a big vision. It's a crazy vision. Can it happen? It can happen. Why not? I mean, if you work towards it, it can. We know the science, we have the physics, we have the technology, we got to just explore it more and stuff. And he's made changes to the way we live. I mean, these SpaceX, things, those boosters, they don't get lost at sea. They come back and they get realized, so he changed the dynamics of, space travel and going up, from the plane. So, I mean, there's so many examples of these things in life. Again, going back to Disney and, I guess, with your, by the way, with your son, that is they will snatch him in a heartbeat, because for their animation group, I mean, they need experts, and they have programs, internship programs for those, where you can join and get the practice, and if they like you, they'll keep you. That's very true. And but here's the thing: Disney himself had the vision, and people laughed at him. As a matter of fact, he was told that he lacked, imagination, you know, and he has. I mean, they actually have a department called Imagineering, So imagine that, right? It's that kind of concept. Like, people look at someone. Oprah, had been kicked out of I think a company or a media place where they didn't think that she was valid. But now she has, she's one of the richest women on the planet, and she's running all kind of stuff. And we can go on the examples. Every single one of those people, if you go back to the story, they started humble, they started with a dream. But you're right, it's not only dreaming or setting the goals, it's really visualizing yourself, with, as we say, who is that person in the house, who is that person behind the car. You want to feel that car, you want to feel that emotion, you want to test sometimes that emotion by actually, as just do it once. Rent a nice car, get it. Like, I drive a decent car, a nice car, and people look at me like, wow. I'm like, I want it. I work towards it because it keeps me going. This is why I'm doing it. It's not just, it's just a car. Believe me. You want a good watch? The watch is just going to be the same as a $4 watch. If, I don't know if there's a $4 watch, but it's as cheap as you can get. It's the same thing. It will still give you the same time. But the difference is that, is it going to motivate you more to do more and more and more? And that's really, I mean, at least that's how I manifest all these things. So you're speaking my language here. I live in that world.
Love it. And another example is one of my mentors, Jack Canfield. So he co-wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul. Everyone told him he was crazy, like a collection of other people's stories in a book. And now there's, I mean, how many anthologies and kind of collective books are there? They're just like all over the place. He's the one who started that idea 30 years ago. I forget how many publishers told him no, but I know it's got to be, I think around 100. And yeah, and he wrote himself a check for him and his wife for $1 million. And he put that check on his ceiling above his bed. Now, that first year, he didn't hit a million, but he hit just under it in the 90s, 900,000 or whatever. So it was like, and then the next year busted through that. But also, same thing, like nobody believed him. And I like to think about it. I keep talking a lot about kids today, but you know those kind of exercises that kids have where you have to find the objects in the picture. So you look at the picture, maybe it's just a group of dogs running around in a backyard, and all you see is dogs, trees, grass, fence. And then you look at the bottom and you see the key, which has a piece of pizza and it has a sock and it has like a man's tie, a pencil. And all of a sudden, when you look at the key, you all of a sudden see, oh, there's the
There it
pizza and
is.
the grass. But it was there all along. And so this is the same thing with life, is that private jet, that, you know, expensive watch, that car it's sitting there. There's infinite abundance and supply there. It's there. It's all there. It's when you get your vision, which is the key, which is like, what am I looking for? I'm looking for the sock. I'm looking for the pizza. Then all of a sudden it becomes clear. You can see it around you. And without having that, it's like we're blind. And so that's the most simplest analogy I can use to say this is why it's so important, so key to have a vision, so that your brain actually rewires itself. So I'm a big proponent of vision boarding. And so it's about that daily focus on what it is that you want. So get really clear on what is it that I want. And having that daily focus and repetition of thought, as well as emotional impact. Those two things are what changes our brain. And so repetition is like daily focus. So think about, like, if you ever watch like a scary show or read a really involved book, say of, tragedy or murder or something, oftentimes that's what shows up in your dreams, because your brain's trying to make sense of it all. Well, the best time to focus on your vision board is right before you go to sleep, to invite those theta brain waves to do its work, and for your brain to continue working as you're sleeping. I don't know if you've ever had this, but I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes, like at 3 a.m. with a solution.
I did last night. I mean, that's just true. Literally at 3 o'clock, I got up and had to write some stuff down for something I was working on. But that it's amazing, Debbie, that you're saying this, because you're talking about, first of all, now we can go into a quantum world, because, the thing is that if we look at this world just as what it is, and, just in a 2D version, we don't understand it well. This is not even a 4D version. It's more than that. There is plenty of angles. You're talking about whatever words, they stick to your mind. Your subconscious is conscious. It's learning. It's keeping all these things. To your point, the more you see things, the more they actually stick into your subconscious and they become part of you. That's where hypnosis. I mean, we kind of self hypnosis ourselves. Sometimes by in general, we have to do these things one day and then day in, day out. And the more you do of that, it stays with you, which means it becomes part of you, and then it becomes your belief. And you're right. If you have it in front of you on a daily basis, in the morning, like you hear a lot of, great talks that talk about how you wake up in the morning and say good things to yourself in the morning. You believe. That's the other thing. Believe. People don't believe when people, if you don't believe in yourself, don't expect people to believe in you. I mean, that's just another thing. People in general are not going to believe in you unless you believe in yourself. Because I've had people say, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to do that. Well, watch me, it's impossible. Watch me. I got this. I don't care what people think, whether I'm going to do it or not. The only person that you owe it to is yourself. Now, you owe it to your world in a way because you are part of this society. And what is it that you're going to deliver in this world? I mean, we can all come in and leave this world, and many do come and go, but there's no impact, right? I mean, there's a lighter impact. Everybody has an impact, but it's not a global impact or something where you leave a legacy that people are going to be like, "Whoa!" You mentioned a few names with something that is changed the world, you know. And so, do you want to be part of that or not? Now, you can say, "Well, that's not me. I don't have it in me," and that's okay. That's a choice. So your vision is limited to wherever you want to be. But if you have a bigger vision of that and you can absorb it, I mean, there is a belief that you can only get what you are capable of doing, right? And so everybody doesn't know what that threshold is unless you really work towards it. You push for that limit and you will know what your limits are and you'll be surprised what your limits are. We also know that we can only, as humans, we use like a small percentage of our brain, but some of us maybe go a little 1/2% better than others, maybe 1% more, and that's enough to make a difference. That's what makes a difference between people in leadership, in creativity, in inventions, and so on and so forth. You again, an example. I had an idea that came up. I manifested. It's an invention. It's patented. It's happening. It doesn't make money, but it doesn't matter. I did it because I wanted. I still think it has a potential. I just haven't worked it enough. But the idea is that I had it. It didn't stay in my back. Like everybody got ideas. There are a dime a dozen. Everybody has just like opinions. We have quite a few. You know, I have a good joke that you might probably find funny or maybe not. But here's the thing. You know how we watched marketing all the time and TV ads and stuff, right? How many of us have actually, gone to a commercial and criticized the commercial before the commercial happened? Like you would go to the McDonald's and say, like, we don't like your commercial. If McDonald's opened it to the public, they would never have, and I'm giving a bad example here, but think of any brand, Nike, you name it, any brand. If they actually selected, the world or gave it like, hey, we're gonna do this commercial, put it on TikTok and Instagram, see, what people think. But they will never go through it. You know how many people are gonna criticize that? Because everybody's got their own way of thinking about how that should look. It's not gonna work. You know, I mean, when you put some ad in TikTok, if you're in the social media now and you put something and have like you got comments, right, left and right, and they go from one extreme to the other. That's because everybody sees it their way. But if you're not concise and you're not, focused on stuff, they still put these ads on. We've been actually put, across these ads over and stuff, but only few people made the decision on those. And only the few people that worked on them know about those ideas until they die. And guess what? We deal with them. We don't like them. Too bad. You just don't watch them. But the idea is you work. So your belief is a key tool that's going to make a difference for any one of us. If you don't believe in yourself, nothing's going to happen. Now, when you believe in yourself enough, people start to believe in you as well. And that's the other thing. I mean, the people that care, and that's all you have to care about is the people that care, right? I mean, some people don't care, which is okay. I'm indifferent. It doesn't matter to me. I don't have to be in like for example, as a leader, I used to say like, listen, I don't have to be liked. Business is business, but it's a bonus to be liked. So why not get that from my people? If I can get the ability to make people love you and care for you, they're going to help you do more and more and more, and you're all going to achieve better as a team. So I mean, there's so many things that can happen here. So again, I mumble a lot.
No, it's great. It's great. And something comes to mind is you can never outperform your own self-image. And so just as you were speaking, and I also would say there is a gestation period that an idea dies. So I would say as soon as you get an idea, doesn't matter how wild it is, I'm sure you've had this where it's like immediately the saboteurs show up and try to talk you out of it. And it's like, nah, that's stupid. Nah, I'll never have. Write your idea down, because writing an idea down, actually you're 42% more likely to manifest it just simply by writing it down. So get it down on paper like you did at 3 a.m. or whenever you did it this morning. Writing it down already is more likely to manifest than if you just rolled over and just said, I'll remember tomorrow morning. And then when you tell someone, so if you were to tell your wife, right, this morning to go, I had this idea, I wrote it down, it's 65% more likely to manifest simply by telling someone else that you trust and love. And that's why it's important to surround yourself with a small group of people that are visionaries like you and who believe in you. And then you're 95% more likely to manifest if you ask someone to help you stay accountable. So that's why, you've got a mentor, you've got someone. So when you did that patent, it's like, okay, I'm going to follow through. So I imagine you had someone else, it was you, but that you had someone else, help you or say, I'm going to get this done by this month. And then, in 4 weeks, I'm going to have this done, that you stay accountable. So those are the stats. And yeah, I hope that's
Those are
helpful.
those are great odds. I mean, who doesn't want that? I mean, but it's funny. So here's my phone, and in my phone I have my notes, and actually have all the ideas that I've come up with, on my notes. So, and every now and then I'll look them up and see like which one is now up up for running. And when I get something, I just write it down, as you said. As a matter of fact, even if I have an idea of something that is big, I actually I get a domain and I create a site for it, and it's a dormant site. I just have it, so I have it in, like, I know I can always go back to it. I duplicate the sites, in a new idea, and then I switch it. Sometimes there, and and this is just what I do, and and it works for me. I have no problem. I mean, it started, like, again, this media started with one channel, with one idea of health, right? And then I noticed that there's more to health than what we think about. What we're talking about does impact health today. This is business talk, but who says that business doesn't impact our health? Everything impacts our mental and physical. All we're talking about now is the abilities that we work together. And if you have all the stuff working for you, then your health probably is not going to suffer as much, because again, you're happier, your adrenaline, I mean, your uh, chemical, stuff is working. Probably your brain is operational. I mean, your hormones are working. Everything can be done. And by the way, if you actually work hard, in the few years, whatever, a couple of years to build whatever the vision and dream that you have, next thing you know, you're going to have a lot more rest in life and do a lot more interesting stuff. And so I mean, there's always, ways to look at it, and some, like you said, I love that saboteur, concept, where, but you're right, your mind is going to be like, oh, that's not who you think you are. What's going to happen? And you start, once you get into that negative, spike, and everything becomes like, no, 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 no. You got to start with a yes. Don't come to me with no. Come to me with a yes. And that's the other way. You'll see this habit in success. Successful people, is that it's not a no. Don't come with a no. Come with a solution. Then the problem is already there. Come with solutions. I mean, and really, again, to your point, if you don't have that support system around you, your immediate family should be that first support system. And that's really what my wife is I support her. She's also a businesswoman. I support her. She supports me. We work as a tag team. We're literally, kind of yin and yang with each other, who make it work. And it's not like you plan it. You work, you find someone that's going to help you with that, and then you help each other grow, together, and everybody benefits. And the other thing is, I think I mentioned value earlier, but also your mission has to be something noble that really you can thrive on. I mean, what you're doing is helping people, change their lives. And see, to me, that's a feeling that you can't take away from no one. I mean, it's an exciting feeling. No one would understand that until you're actually doing something that is going to help others. You don't get any satisfaction by not helping others, but when you help people, you feel it. It just, there's nothing you can do about it. There is a sensation that you get, like, whoa, this is exciting. You see the eyes, you see the reaction. You know that somebody is touched. This talk show is going to go somewhere. Someone's going to hear it and may apply a couple of things here. And without me knowing who that person is, I already know that's going to be a good thing. And so I'm happy. And I do this because I know that it's going to lead to that. And that person is probably going to share with somebody else, and so on and so forth. And that ripple effect just going to continue in time. We don't know what that impact is going to be. It's like, you watch those time travel movies, and you make a change in time and everything ripples, like a multiverse. Well, that could happen too. I mean, we can go like into that deep dive craziness, in La La Land, or Woohoo Land, as I think you would say, Dave. But really, that's an important piece of life, and we need to actually understand those things. So, Debbie, your work now, like we've talked about this, can we just kind of visualize to our audiences what a vision board for them would look like, and like, just to give them a little bit more of a perspective, a simple, I mean, I know you said one word, but like, a typical one that they can design themselves. And of course, we do want people to actually go to your site and deal with you and reach to you, and you can get them, because you do have coaching, you do business seminars, you have your own magazine, you have groups, so let's talk about all that, and then how people can actually, work with you to get better.
Okay. So really simply, what makes a Dare to Declare vision board unique from others that you might see on Pinterest and so forth is that it's not a collage. And so people even will say, oh, it's a dream board collage. So heaven's first law. So I really focus on the universal laws. And that truly is like the law of vibration, which is we want to accentuate the feeling of the image. So you want to have space around it. So just like margins or chapters in a book, there's white space in a book that you read because our eye needs a place to rest. So that's the same thing that I encourage on the vision board. The other, there's a number of protocols, but that one probably the most distinctive, and that you can tell it's a dare to declare vision board and that it's not a collage. The other is that, as I stated before, the number one thing that you want to manifest is your self-image. And so I encourage you to put an image of yourself, just you, not you and your partner, not you and your family, just you, and in a happy time. So if that means like, I'm happy I'm making a vision board, then take a selfie, print it, and post it on your board. The other thing that I would encourage is I'm old school, which means that I'm not about it being easier to make it digitally. It's not easier to make it on Canva. Yeah. As soon as you hear the idea that it's easier, you're probably cheating yourself of the emotion and the feeling, because it is in the process of discovering the images that you're actually going to lean into your intuition and discover what it is that you really want. So give yourself the time. I call it the new spa day. My full vision board experience takes up to 6 hours. But what's more important than planning your future? All the things that we just talked about, all the things that you've manifested in your life have been because of vision and goals. So this is probably one of the most important activities you're going to do for your whole year. So give yourself the day to do it. People also will say to me, Deb, nobody has magazines anymore. That's phony baloney. But if you want to make it easier, I do have an online course. It's 2.5 hours of content. You can do it at your own pace. It's 8 chapters, 30 lessons. It was professionally videotaped in my studio that I have here in Ontario. And it comes bundled with a magazine that's based on the thousands of clients that I've worked with. And people say to me, Deb, it's like you read my mind. And they love it. It makes it very easy to locate images, but you can certainly add other ones. So those are some of the highlights, but there's a lot more as well that goes into this intentional vision board that really works. And then I train the trainers. So I have a train the trainer program because as I was offering this globally, I realized that there was no one else offering it in the same way, based on my faith, based on my background, as I talked about with children and my understanding of brain development, and also my work with Jack Canfield. So all of that combined has created this really beautiful, unique, proven process that we offer. And so now people are coming into my academy, being certified and using it within their own businesses. So it's not a franchise, but it's like a business in a box where it gives new entrepreneurs that head start, that kickstart to hit the ground running for impact. Like you talked about, people want to help other people so they can make a really fast impact that's long lasting, helping people create a vision board, but then they also are earning revenue. And I teach people how to do that too as a business.
Wow. Well, I think there's more to it. I mean, certainly, in the corporate world, this can help a lot. I mean, you have learning development and a lot of, these companies that can actually take benefit of that and hopefully apply some of these things and assist, in that growth, any company. I do want to just to give you something that I just thought about as you were talking. Everybody probably watched a movie in their life, right? I mean, everybody watches a movie here and there, right? I mean, some people say like, I'm not into movies, but I think everybody has seen a movie or a documentary or something. If you think about that, movie starts with one idea or, a dream piece that somebody had in them. I mean, I'm going to go Star Wars, go just, nuts. So George Lucas, right? I mean, he thinks, about this idea of a Star Wars, concept, and there's love, there's this, that, there's politics. So anyways, but if you notice, if you go through the process of filmmaking, there is the idea that becomes an actual script, and it becomes a screen script, and then it becomes an actual cartoon concept. So all those scenes actually depicted, and visualized before they even start acting on them. And that's really what it is. Life is exactly the same concept. We have an idea, we visualize it, we have to put it, and that vision board that you said that you have to cut and put things, that's your drawings, where you actually have to see it, to believe it, right? I mean, and then the rest of it is easy. You can act on it as you see it. And so it's like amazing when you like you don't put these things together. But as I hear you, like, it just kind of comes all in one place. I mean, if you listen right now, watch it, probably did not put it together the same way. I haven't, but as we talk about it, it just came all like in light. Like now I understand what that means from the inception to the actual delivery execution on it. And it just changes. And then from there, you can have variety of things that come out of it. And that's exactly what happens. So I love what you said. You have the academies, you can teach people. People say there's no magazines. There are magazines, and you can get yours, right? And there is more to it because now you can actually take what you've put in play and give it to other people and help them make more impact and so on and so forth. Now you also started your podcast and you're talking about these things, to a world audience, and that's really what it is. I mean, we can help each other through these processes and basically just align. I think that's the problem. Like, sometimes we like structure. Not everybody is organized enough. I mean, we all kind of sometimes have a little bit of miss here and there. Nobody's perfect. But having these things in place just help us align properly, structureize or structure, our life correctly. And then ultimately we'll have a better outcome, no matter what it is that you do. And by the way, this goes for small or big ideas, large or small. It doesn't just happen to be one thing. You can, as an audience, make a difference for you and someone else just by applying basic things. This concept here can be for small and large. I mean, Debbie, right? It doesn't matter, right? You can have a small business, you can have a startup business, you can just do this in personal life, you can do it on vacation. How do I vacation with my family this summer? Let's just plan our vacation. I mean, there's so many things we do, pieces of it, but we don't put it all in one big, line, timeline. So Debbie, what would you tell people, leave our audiences with today in terms of something that they can take, to the bank? And of course, we want them to connect back to you as well.
Okay. So I would leave you with three words:
Ooh,
be. So it starts with your being. Who do you get to be? So back to that self-image. So think about, write it on the top of a page and just brain dump. Who do I want to be? Or who am I? And what's the best version of me? So who do I get to be? Then what do I get to do? So that's the doing, which is the goal setting. And then the have, we can just hold our hands out loosely and see what shows up. And that's the receiving piece. So the have, the abundance shows up. So be, do, and have. And when you put life in that order versus the other way around, which most people have it as what I want to have, what I need to do, and then I'm going to be happy. Start with the being, doing, and then see what shows up in gratitude for the having. Then you're off to the races. And so my website is my name. It's Debbi, Debbi, Sluys, Sluys.com, or dare, the number 2, declare.com. And there is information about my magazine, the course bundle, as well as the academy, which is starting again soon. And so I would love to have a conversation with you.
what's the time frame for your academy? Like when someone signs up, how long does it take for someone to graduate?
It's just 6 weeks, and they receive the PowerPoint assets. So it's truly plug and play. I'm going to help them, give them price lists, customer, like where they can find their clients, where do they hang out, how would they use vision boards within their business. So it's very much a bespoke type of offering. And then ongoing, there's monthly masterminds with my growing community. We have 42 graduates from 5 different countries so far in the last 3 years, and it continues to grow. So it's just part of this beautiful, vibrant community that's offering vision boards around the world.
You say around the world, which means that your courses are not confined to Canada, Ontario. You basically anyone can participate, so it's remote, right?
Yes.
So again, folks, there's no excuse. If we have a need, I think we have a solution, a resource that can help. And definitely, I mean, 6 weeks is not I think it's worth the investment for any much. It has to be able to do this. So it makes a difference, folks. How to change your life and taking the necessary steps to change your life. And this is just one way to do it. And Debbie is doing an awesome job about it by helping. And again, as you said, you have a whole community that's out there that you've created. Now you do have a Facebook group where people can mingle, I guess.
Yeah, it's
It,
it's a group online and it's called Vision Boards. We put the action into law of attraction.
Ooh, I like that. You know, one thing that you said is that that BDH, right? And you really put it in the right place because when you think about it, that's how we do it. We want to have everything, we want to do everything, and then we want to be. It's like it's amazing. Like no, we can't. You don't think about these things in these terms. Like you really, I mean, it's amazing. Like when you hear it from an expert, you're like, how did I not think about it that way? But really, that's what we are today. I mean, most of us are in the same place. We want to have everything because we are so subjected to like, you want to have this. Like you said, like when you were 17, you saw that great luxury life and you wanted. Yes, that's great, but that, you can't have it before you can be who you. Because here's the thing: you can have it all, and if you're not the right person, you're gonna lose it all. Yeah, that's the other thing. Can you handle all that? I mean, not everybody can handle sometimes the things that they want to have, right? It's a whole concept. I mean, that we need to be aware of. But I love your frame. You have to be who you are. You have to do what it is that you're going to be doing, and then you can, as have whatever you want, and invite all that good stuff to come in. So listen, there. I mean, time flew. I mean, it's been fun. I mean, I got questioned, which was a good thing. I didn't expect that, so that was good. You flipped that on me. But you know what? Listen, I mean, we're here to exchange, ideology with people and help people just see the world differently. And again, as I said, one little thing can change your life, folks. Or even if not you, you might know someone who needs that assistance. And we have it. So I will have the actual link to your website on the description of the show so people can connect with you direct. And of course, the show will be, airing, and of course we'll be sharing that with you as well. So everybody can see and get it, and hopefully we can help someone today, or many people, I would say, on a day-to-day basis. 1% at a time, as I say. That's all it takes. Debbie, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. It was such a pleasure.
All the pleasure is mine. And so, folks, there you have it. We had another great hour, and I've learned quite a bit. I mean, you know, I just want to say this: it's amazing. Like when you're having an exchange, there is no way you walk out of this. Like I know this. I don't walk out of any show without learning and having some new concepts. And at best, it helps me kind of restructure again and again and again. Every time I learn one trick that I tweak, it's like those are like the tune ups, and the tunes of like imagine you have a guitar, piano, and you got to tune it in. That's what I get, and it helps me. And I think everybody the same way. If you get one piece today from Debbie and another piece from a different show, and so on and so forth, you'll be able to actually get more and more, clear on your path and better in your doing. And by the way, do check out the podcast. So I think Debbie's work is worth listening to, and her guest is gonna be just awesome. And as you heard, so yes, do follow that as well. All right, folks, this is it. American Age. It's been real. It's a true, always a pleasure, and we'll be talking soon. New day, new show, new topic. Bye for now.